So stay strapped in. Peke is out, Power of Evil is back, and Origen go back to blue side since the first matchup this game. So Crapo, what's your take on not only the substitution, but what picks and bans will have in store knowing OG's blue?
I mean, I think they learned the value, both teams learned the really high value Kindred has in this series so far, so we could see the return of that. Likely banned out though, and I think it's actually good for Origen to be back on blue side, because Sivir and Kindred seem to be the top two picks that are very contested, that really have the biggest influence in this matchup. The Braum is up there too, has done really well so far. But Soaz right now has revealed that he does play Echo, so that could be interesting. Origen have a lot of power here in picks and bans overall.
Yeah, like basically all of the cards are being laid out on the table, so both teams know what's up. Obviously, the change is now that OG is back onto the blue side, so Power of Evil, they will be able to counterpick him potentially in the mid lane or bring something to the top lane. The dynamic definitely changes in this final game. We'll just have to see which team is adapted best on the day.
All right, so TF Nidalee Thresh has been banned by Origen every single game. Is this the time that they pivot or change? There was a brief discussion around Echo, whether or not it should go through on the analyst desk, and we'll find out if H2K feel the same. Kindred ban, not a surprise. It has been the priority pick.
Yeah, Nidalee second is likely what comes out. Overall here, purple side Nidalee ban usually is what we see.
Amazing, had some good Gragas barrels in the previous game.
It's surprising that Origen do it the second ban. I guess they don't want to wait for H2K to ban last because they want to have control over the Sivir and maybe Echo. Maybe they just ban out Echo and go for Sivir first pick. That does mean that H2K have the option to third ban and then kind of remove whatever's left.
Yeah, Nidalee has the ban out there. There's the Azir, all right, coming in a little bit after. So H2K still want to keep that one away from Power. The last ban from OG, what are you looking towards? Sivir has been a major component in the H2K game plan over the last couple of games. Lissandra's going to be final one up against Ryu. I mean, I can't argue with that. Ryu's Lissandra, very strong.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's fine getting off the board. Wonder if H2K have enough respect for Sven's Sivir here.
Yeah. Just
simply ban it out. But that gives them Echo, so at this point they might as well trade. Give him one, take the other.
And
give up Sivir, take. Yeah, Echo Braum.
Power is back on the field, so Karma is the final ban from H2K.
Makes sense. Sivir into Echo Braum is what we expect so far of the series overall.
So what about a Braum first pick? Somewhat dissuade the Sivir.
Is that him?
I don't know, man. It's bold, I'll say that much.
The OG Prophet.
Lulu is still on the table, though.
She is indeed.
Braum, Kalista, Lulu. Go for it. Old school, OG. It worked for them in game 4 in 51 minutes.
Hey, Kalista's dirty into Sivir overall. That's where Sivir is the one that wants to swap away, usually.
All right, H2K, first two pickups, lots of priority on the board. Echo's open, Poppy's open, Graves is open. What else? Ryu even picked a very early LeBlanc. Not sure if he would do that against Power, though.
I mean, you could also lock in a Corki here. Game 1, when H2K were red side, they ran the Corki. It was a quasi-flex, and then with the last pick, Kassadin, they gave Corki to Forgiven. He could just save those rockets into the Braum shields.
Echo Graves is something you could expect here to come out from H2K based on their behavior in the series, but obviously probably may want to pivot. They have been exposed a little bit so far.
Yeah. Echo Sivir, makes sense. Yep. Echo strong on the top lane. They know Soaz plays it, so going to be putting priority in that one. Forgiven, we've seen the strength of Sivir in this series.
They just felt like they were falling into a trap card here, being handed over to Sivir, over to Braum. But I still like it. I think it's such a strong pick overall.
Agreed on that one. OG, next two pickups, they're going to look towards the jungle now.
I think they're building another Lulu pump. I think they're looking to do the same thing here.
Yeah. If that's locked in, and it is, 5 games in a row, Sven has played Lucian.
But AD carriers are used to that. When they grind in solo queue, they sometimes play the same champion like 20 games in a row. It's a little boring for some people, but if there's any role that's used to doing that, it's probably the marksman.
And the next two picks from H2K. Okay, so support still on the table for them to pick up. Mid lane and jungle. So will we get that mid lane counter pick? Most likely.
You'd have to think so.
Yeah.
You'd have to think so. I mean, Lissandra's on the table. Ryu had a pretty good game on LeBlanc. It wasn't game-changing, mostly because he just couldn't find the targets in that previous matchup, and the Lulu was at the right place at the right time. Vander had not a great performance on Bard earlier, and
Nope.
Alistair Brom has been the priority pick, so that it will be locked in right now.
I mean, pretty textbook reaction here. I think this is no surprise to Origen what H2K just locked in here. And again, it very often doesn't come down to the plays. It comes down to just the execution, or the picks rather. It comes down to the plays instead in the game, what you do with those picks. Maokai has been Soas's go-to. Maybe looking for a little more aggression here though. Hovering the Poppy. Maybe wants to switch it up. Has a slightly better laning phase into the Echo early.
For sure. I do really like the Maokai though, and how OG's been playing around it. But slightly hard to get into those fights without those flanks, of course.
If they go,
piece.
yeah, if they go for Lulu, though, the objective is to kite a little more and be able to disengage with the Poppy. Or also Maokai, who you're really realistically going to target here.
It's true.
It's really hard for you to
So
make a
Orion and Maokai, and we 2015 boys.
Yeah.
That's real old school ball delivery system.
I also like the Poppy here because, like, obviously, Alistair engages become a lot harder when they're on the front lines. So Flash and Headbutt Point Rise starts being an option. All right, so Poppy and Oriana will be the picks from OG. So a staple from Power of Evil.
And you know, his Oriana last week was pretty good. I felt that Power of Evil, he did not hold the trigger finger whenever he was throwing those shockwaves down. And yes, a few missed, but he was always playing aggressive. It wasn't that slow passive, I'll wait for a perfect shockwave, mess it up and lose the game.
Yeah.
Because last week, Origen played pretty well and aggressive with that champion.
Hey, you miss every shot you don't take. And yes, there were some sombreros, which is what it looks like when you have the ball on top of you and you pop your ultimate, doesn't hit anyone. But, yeah, he had a lot of good ultimates in that series and ended with very good KDAs. He, as like a standout, he just didn't die a lot in that series.
He ran
a good place.
He ran cleanse though in that series, which meant
Yeah,
that he had to force Origen to play a 3-1-1 rather than a 1-3-1. Difference obviously being the three people are in the side lane because your mid laner can't pivot there. And because of the LeBlanc pickup, he will be forced to do that again. LeBlanc does play in the side lane in the mid stage of the game. If you can get a lead on Power of Evil here and become a kill threat on some of these side lane members, then I think H2K can take control of the game. So the name of the game is keeping that mid lane as equal as we can. So we need to see if Amazing can influence that a little bit, because so far what H2K have shown is good synergy between Ryu and Jankos to shut down the opposing mid laner, whoever it was, when Ryu has access to slightly more aggressive picks like Lissandra or the LeBlanc with the chain.
Took a long time for that to get set up though. Games 1, 2, and 3, Jankos was not really a presence, not really a force to be reckoned with.
He had that one gank where it was Lissandra with the Lee Sin, I believe, where he then forced the Power of Evil teleport, and that kind of started everything, got the ball rolling, because then he went bot, got another teleporter cooldown, then they got the payoff with a double dive. So I think so far Jankos has done it in 2 games and shown some synergy there on different champions. So I think we may see a repeat of that.
We'll have to find out. It is the deciding match between Origen and H2K. For the last time today, jump on Twitter and just throw your votes our way. Who will be your first finalist for the 2016 European LCS Spring Split? Will it be hashtag OG win, or will it be hashtag H2K win? Those retirement funds are being worked on, but only one of them will be cashed in.
It would be so crazy for OG to make the finals here, not being the favorites to win pretty much any of their playoff run.
Would be a complete surprise.
Game 5 really just comes down to this.
I mean, if anything, they've shown remarkable improvement, both Origen and Fnatic. That's kind of the story. Whenever we ask the fans online, it's like, yeah, of course Origen and Fnatic gonna win. The reasoning wasn't quite there yet. It was just like, yeah, they show up in playoffs.
They've got the faith. Don't doubt the faith, Crappo.
Yeah, I mean, the faith has been better predictions than me, so.
Hey, the faith is playing once this game ends. CLG. We'll see if it gets rewarded once again.
Golden Age.
All right. A little bit of an invade here from Origen. Now, previous game, Origen went very deep for vision. They split the map in half, and they found the lane swap they were looking for.
Yeah, and they're going to do it again here. So there's, again, no secret covered up option or mission here for Forgiven, where he hides in the top lane brush. That's the ultimate counter to that play. Again, I think Origen will just get their lane swap here.
And of course, those lane swaps can be determined by vision. 10,000 gold spent on pink wards.
In a series.
In one series. That's just the last 4 games. I think that tells you a lot about the games. Admittedly, 2 of them were 50 minutes plus.
Yeah.
So that obviously helps in purchasing that amount of gold.
Very true. When we have games where you have like literally 100,000 gold, then yeah. Still, it's a lot of gold invested. But that's what you need to do in this high-level game of League of Legends. Keeping that vision up and keeping the vision control over areas is really important.
We see the cheeky, the Kasing mimic here. I like this, what Vander's doing. He's looking for an aggressive Q flash on Power of Evil, while Forgiven's getting ready to push in immediately. If Power doesn't really get punished for that because he sees it coming, it's still going to yield the pressure to Ryu, allow him to push early. Obviously, Forgiven doesn't want to insta-push here. He needs people to help him push the tower. But we get a lane swap, and this is, again, playing in Origen's favor overall.
So, lane swap once again. Miffy and Sven in the top side here. I'll see if anything funky happens, but
Nothing funky is going to happen.
I think
we
it's
know
going
that.
to be pretty standard.
The only variable right now is ganks in mid lane, and the reason the lane swap kind of stops that is because junglers are busy just joining in some of these plays because tempo is so important. I think we can skip explaining the lane swap for one game.
I don't mind that.
We can take a
I
break.
don't mind that. I'm pretty sure we've seen it multiple times this game. But yeah, championship points, spot in the final. That's what these guys are playing for. And an all rests on an Oriana's shoulders.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are very excited to see Power of Evil. As much as things change, they always stay the same.
Indeed. No smite this game though, but Power of Evil.
Sadly.
No, yeah, sadly.
No TP either.
Good point.
I think it's the first time this series where both mid laners are
It is.
not running teleport.
It has different impacts though, as we alluded to earlier. Ryu will play on the side lane eventually, and Power will stay stuck in mid because Oriana on a side lane is something you really don't want to experience.
Yeah. Very exciting.
You sound very excited, Trevor.
I am. I'm
Are you-
waiting for the hype. I'm waiting for the
Perhaps a
hype.
little tired after these
Um,
5 games.
Waiting for the hype. Odo's gonna get the tower, so it's mirrored. Both AD carry supports. They're already back. Power of Evil's already popped Ryu's clone. Kind of expected early lane, especially with those empowered autos with Oriana's kit and the ability to both shield and zone Ryu away.
Ryu doesn't care though. He
Yeah.
bases not on the cannon wave, which are traditionally really tricky to push out, but he's looking to be back in time here. PoE just push out, reset. I think this will actually be a more favorable base for PoE overall.
Makes me so happy to see laners as well get every single CS under a tower. Just makes me happy because most of the time you don't see that early game because it's difficult. You have to sacrifice one, but he got them all, and that means 8 CS advantage to him in the mid lane.
It makes me sad because I can't do it.
Yeah,
Even on champions I've played for a long time, but you know, those that can't do.
it's true. And then you
Talk
get
about it.
frustrated, and then you toss out like boomerang blade, and it's like messed up all of them.
Ooh, interesting here. Jankos is top right of the map farming, while his dual lane is setting up a push here. Nowhere to be found. I guess they just didn't really want to speed up. They could have went up for a bit of a speed up here, but they're just waiting for Odoana to join. And again, pretty standard lane swap.
Yep.
Amazing's doing the same. Jankos pulling slightly ahead here in camps.
Let's see what Soaz decides to do on this Poppy, because he had very good performances last week. Earlier this series, pulled the Poppy out as well. Quite as impactful. And the towers are going to get pushed down. So the next stage of this lane swap is going to work out as scripted. Rift Herald could go the way of H2K, and then we'll see the inner turrets trades.
Yeah, what-
something we've seen different.
What they do with Rift Herald here, HTK did it slightly different than Origin. For me, it's always interesting and fascinating to watch that evolution. I have learned, however, that many people don't share the same passion. The cool thing for me about lane swaps is that just small changes in decision making or tempo, like a matter of seconds, have larger influential impacts later in the game. But it doesn't make for exciting gameplay because nobody dies.
But it's the ripple effect, right? Like at the start of the ripple, not a lot happens. But later on, you see those big team fights, and you see it all come together. Dark Seal as a early pickup from Odoame. We've seen this before from him in this series. Not as early, but it makes sense. I mean, like Chrono Break is just going to get you out of there, and you're so tanky, you don't die a lot.
Yeah, the whole reason is though that it makes that corruption portion just a little more efficient.
Yeah.
We see it all the time over in LCK when you do really want to just exploit that laning phase as best as you can.
All right, so laning phase somewhat extended. Odo's going to run into Sven and Miffy. And you can see Forgiven and Vanda, they've now swapped down to the bottom. Every time we look middle, Ryu is jumping aggressively on Power of Evil, and now that he's got access to that Mimic, has even out the CS as well.
He's got double pink ward backup too, both his brushes, so that means he can aggressively dash without having the risk of getting flanked here. So H2K have done a really good job setting him up for success overall. Power of Evil is playing on an island, however.
Let's see if we can make it work. Cleanse instead of teleport, so that island needs to go to wherever the fun is.
Yeah, and Odoam is doing the same thing again where he defends the push. That's something that H2K have been enjoying to do. They did it in game 1 as well, just to get a small lead here. Just slowing people down as much as they can while they 3-man push on the bottom side with the Herald. They figured out pretty much they don't need their top laner to be there for a 4-1 trade. Let's see if they bounce it here. However, it does eliminate the option to bounce this wave and hand it over to your top laner. That is the problem, and actually it came to bite H2K in the butt a little bit last series too, because we had that replay analysis from Deficio on the analyst desk where Odoan was a little lost, and that was the reason he fell behind in this lane swap. Because now they're handing it over the lane to Forgiven, but he can't immediately catch it because he needs to base and then trade with Odoan. So this slows down H2K quite a bit if it fails.
And tower trade in the end, so OG definitely want to get some levels under their belt. Power of Evil wants to get into that mid game, late game, we start scaling. In the mid lane, not seeing a whole lot of action. Both of them going for the blasting one first, however.
Well, Ryu's been trading with Power of Evil exactly like that. Slightly late in the command protect. No sombrero yet, but Chains will root Power of Evil in place. Insta cleanse comes out and flash blown. So
yeah, but both summoners used on him stepping aggressively forward here. And that's because H2K came out of the darkness here for Origen. No vision on Yankas. He steps in when Power thinks he's alone. And now Power lost both his summoners here. And Ryu is still pretty nimble. So now Ryu can actually look for a flash chain, double dash chain with Yankas following up using this pink ward for vision. And that may result in the kill onto Power of Evil later.
So just a blue going over here from H2K, but there is a contest from Amazing. He's basically out of mana, so he goes in, the E and the smite.
That's big, because that means now Ryu doesn't have access to some of these double distortions, and if he needs to use some mana wave clearing, suddenly he no longer has kill pressure, so that's a very big steal for Origen.
Especially if Power of Evil can help secure that one with the help of Amazing. Allows him to constantly shove in. All right, Origen will have a numbers stack in this bottom lane. Yankos and Odo will be holding hands to try to defend, while Forgiven was solo pushing in the top lane. So these next few stages being mirrored out. OG with some good vision in the jungle. It allowed them to steal that blue buff.
All in all, 200 gold advantage, basically nothing in the early game. Over to H2K. Odoalne is able to receive this wave as well, which is nice, but Sven is there to pressure him into tower with Miffy, so he won't just get to free farm the wave.
Now take a look at the pink wards. Multiple down on their minimap already from Origen. They've got 3 in their inventory. H2K have not backed in a little while, so they'll most likely be picking up some wards fairly soon as well.
Yeah, the result of this early game lane swap, however, though, is that Odoamne is 14 CS up now onto Soaz. Soaz is pushing out that wave that eventually Odoamne is looking to catch in the top lane. Experiences are similar right now, but Soaz will push ahead early as he's pushing out that wave. Forgiven has been a lot more isolated here on the map compared to Sven.
Sven's already got those early lucidity boots. Flash and heal going to be very useful. Staying alive in this team fights, especially because Echo's going to be jumping on him, LeBlanc's going to be jumping on him. And they're all going to be sped up by Sivir. So there's actually a lot of... I think there's slightly more threat onto Sven this game. Because of how the team comps are set up.
More importantly so, because he doesn't have a Lulu to save him. And Odoamne can kind of close the back door. Put a parallel convergence behind, which means you can never dash into that, because if he just flashes into proc you, tag you it, you're dead. So, yeah, very, very important that Sven is aware of his positioning and his flanks.
So pushing the bottom lane now. We've actually gone back to standard lanes, funny enough. Amazing. The Q there. Bit of damage onto Vander and Forgiven. Level 5 on Vander though versus level 6 on Miffy, so you won't have the ultimate available if they do go for a skirmish. Mid lane, nice damage from Ryu. Just connects everything that he needed to in that trade. Looking towards the Abyssal Scepter. There's the ultimate. Amazing coming in from the bot side, but Yaku's already there. Here comes Miffy as well, but he won't be able to get in range.
PoE has 3 points to the Q and 3 points to the W right now, so he's spacing them out equally as opposed to favoring one. A little interesting note here for Oriana players. Ryu can't connect, Amazing dashes out. This is good, so this is pressure, but maybe Forgiven will run mid here to take over on the wave clear duty. Let's see. When are they going to put Ryu in the side lane? Because he will have kill pressure on Lucian if he can come from the shadows.
Ryu is just leaving base. Doesn't seem to be heading towards the side lane just yet.
Forgiven a clean bottom lane. Yeah. That wave is too big to hand over.
Mine. Especially when he's down around 20 odd CS almost. Pink ward is sitting just next to Sven in that bush, so if H2K ever overextend, teleport from Soaz is a possibility, but Soaz is too busy battling Odawamne.
Amazing's doing a really good job showing up at lanes that need his assistance. Not necessarily for ganks, but really just walking up to make sure certain players can't get ganked here. I don't think this trade will amount to much.
Well, maybe. Vander doesn't have his ulti, remember, and there's Miffy's. Sven is going to jump back towards him, but the TP from Odawamne, this could result in more. Parallel conversion, so perfect onto Miffy, but now jumping after Sven. He'll have to back away. Now Ryu comes into the mix and is blocked by those minions. Distortion will make the first blood happen, and Sven is out of there.
I think this will actually end up being favorable for Origen here. Miffy and Sven waste so many summoners on the other side, and a tower trade maybe can come out. Can they finish it in time?
It looks like they can. Collateral damage didn't kill too many minions. Tower will fall. And that means Origen, they come out with a net gold gain. But a problem, I feel, because First Blood was picked up by Ryu. One man that's really going to be looking to assassinate the Origen members.
Yeah, but incredibly well played here from Zen and Miffy to make it out. Yeah, with just one death overall there and just burning so much time and summoners on the side of H2K, because they could have easily both died to the blooming threat of teleport.
All right, we're going to see the replay of that fight.
If they fight you, however, if you see that Sivir ulti, I feel like you should immediately disengage. Let's see, so Sven goes in for an aggressive dash. You must know that teleport is coming. I guess offense is the best defense. Forgiven flashes here. Sven understands that he has to get out of it. And here, the tag. Odawamne is so scared of getting stunned. Could have waited slightly longer, but just taking the safe way out.
Maybe could have been 2 kills. Another time winder would have slowed down Sven. But ultimately, yeah, that was the tower advantage to OG. So in terms of gold, that puts OG ahead. But yeah, of course, the gold goes over to Ryu for the first blood. We did see Ryu pick up an early kill last time we played LeBlanc, and it didn't result in him snowballing out of control. So,
but this is problematic now. When Ryu can kind of control these waves, Sven can never challenge them alone anymore. He will need help with his support.
Oh, wow.
Contests.
Again?
Wow.
Another blue buff goes the way of Origen. So Ryu's been denied 2 in a row.
And that's mostly amazing setting that all up. He's improved a lot in this series so far. Two really crucial blue steals.
And I think you have to, highlight that Amazing had very limited impact over the last few weeks of the LCS, and now starting to show up. Soaz is going toe-to-toe with Odo. Puts the verdict down. This is a long extended fight until Sven arrives.
Now that Sven's arrived with the damage, they may be able to pick up the kill, but he's able to get away. He has to flash though. So they burn the summoner. It's good.
And it's good because Sven can't really stay in the bottom lane. So he's trying to find a way to make himself useful. He'll just join top, maybe take over, maybe send Soaz bottom later, because you have some time to play with, because these lanes are super long. And obviously, if Rio's at his tower, by the time he reaches your base, you can maybe make a play somewhere else on the map. It does hand over Dragon Control to H2K.
And a moment ago, Origen had actually had 4 pink wards in the inventory. They've started to place a couple of them down. Dragon is going to get secured by Yankos. That's the first of the game. 14 minutes in. H2K still behind in gold, but they've got themselves that singular kill.
And Sven actually, after moving top, is picking up this big wave. And Soaz is walking up, wants a piece of that too. So, interesting. Where is Soaz going to go? Because this is actually something where that wave probably should have gone to Soaz instead of Sven, and this is a choice Origen have made in the past, where they favor Sven to get the big waves, and it's come to bite them sometimes. Because now Soaz is doing red buff, and after that he's pretty much done for. So the past 30-40 seconds and the next minute or so, Soaz will get absolutely no farm.
Yeah, and it's funny because in this series we've actually seen the opposite, right? Where Soaz has been soaking up a lot of those resources and then he gets ahead of Odawamne. But yeah, this game they're reverting back to having Sven take a lot of those resources. In that first game, of course, went big and got a lot of those kills, and when the kills were on him and then someone else on the team had to be the carry, it wasn't as good.
Luckily for him, Odawamne is pushing out very quickly instead of denying more CS in that way, so it will completely even out and it won't be influential or impactful in the series whatsoever.
Well, somebody very excited in the crowd.
Hey man, he likes his people.
All right, Amazing. Bursted down by Ryu. Loses a good chunk of his HP, but nothing more than that. And he'll clear out the wards. Very defensive vision from Origen if you look at the minimap. No deep wards at all. Teleports up for Odo and Soaz, and all of those summoner spells being used earlier have not had much impact in the flow of the game. Just defending that pink ward and clearing whatever vision is put in front of it.
Good shield from Miffy. Ryu, trying to get him range of Sven. Good reaction times there. Could have been a hit with the chains as well, but of course, isn't going to result in a kill. Don't really want to be jumping there with an Echo and a Graves. And OG will be moved back to the mid lane.
Yeah, they're just really aware of where H2K is on the map overall. Counting the dots, you know, if you don't see all 5 of them, they're probably near you. And they're allowing SOAS to get some advantage here. He pushed out top. That wave is pressured. With the vision and kind of the way it played out, they know they're safe in pushing bottom. They're taking Rift Herald. They're leaving mid lane a little exposed, but they've already cleared the wave. So Origen, for me, are playing this mid game slightly better than H2K so far.
Right, so what does that mean when we actually unlock these lanes a little bit further? H2K theoretically have more pick power with the Sivir, LeBlanc, Echo. OG, if they find a good team fight and they layer their, you know, really big wombo combo abilities, obviously that can be game-changing, but I think it's going to be a mistake from H2K if they get caught by a multi-man Gragas Barrel or a multi-man Shockwave, because their comp can do so well with flanking.
Sadly, that is what League of Legends has kind of evolved to, where it's very hard. It's very hard to make plays. You kind of just wait for a mistake to punish because it's a safer approach. Especially in 2v2 laning, we see it very often. Why bother trying going for a kill when somebody can TP behind you and kill you? Let's just play for minion push, tower chip damage. Totally against it. I wish TP wasn't a thing, but here we are.
It's funny because it's kind of gone the other way. We talk a lot about like macro teams being drawn into the chaos of like team fight heavy teams, and OG's actually been drawn into the macro game of H2K. It's like, well,
even more impressive.
Let's play a game of chess, not boxing.
Even more impressive, OG has won multiple times in that macro game. Amazing, he may be caught out, and they turn it back around. SOAS is in for this.
SOAS is still going to keep up with the chase, keep his verdict onto Forgiven. That's going to force a flash. Yankos with the ultimate will be blocked out by the Braum shield. And that results in a 0 for 0.
I got a bit excited there, Pulse. I got a bit excited.
You did, but I don't blame you.
Set you up there. Sven takes a big chunk before he does a mini dash. And fizzles to
agreed.
Not a whole lot. Locket has been picked up for amazing. We're 19 minutes in. Second item's almost been completed here for most of the carries and tanks. Support still buying dem wards.
Yeah, Sven moving to a side lane. As expected, obviously mid laners can't clear that. Because of the lane swap too, there are no side lane turrets to kind of rotate around or fight for, because they've all been like in a nice, good old-fashioned gentleman's agreement, been taken off the map.
No, after you. No, really.
No, please.
Yes. Excuse me. Would you mind if I took that power? Certainly. Please don't let me stop you.
Yeah, ironically, that's kind of the way you play 1-3-1s with Lissandra too. You actually don't want to dive them. Takes too much time and effort for failure. Just walk up to the towers like, yo, we're about to dive your ass. Do you want to move away from the tower?
We just went from like posh English to whatever that was from Crepo. And back to our regular broadcast of amazing clearing out some wards.
As the resident British person, could you say that
yes,
that was a Cockney accent line?
That wasn't, not from
okay.
No, that was definitely not Cockney.
No, right. Nope, not at all. Yeah. Anyway, so amazing, gonna clear out this crab. Apparently the gender of the crab is female, but I like to think that one crab is female, one is male.
Why is that, Pulse?
Because then they never meet, right? Because they always go to the middle, and then there's the laners there, so they have to pace backwards.
So why do they never meet? Is it friend zone?
I worry about the things you think about.
Yeah,
also,
but
I really
they
think
never come together. But even, like, you know, it's sad, but even that is a better love story than Twilight.
Pulse, it really feels like you have some unresolved problems.
Yeah,
that
indeed.
You should talk to some
in these crabs.
Yeah. You should talk to some
Is there another crab in your life?
that is separated by mid lane and a pro player?
Yeah. No, and Dr.
It did. I'm actually sad.
I actually think that was more Jerry Springer than Dr. Phil, personally.
Yeah. Anywho, OG pushing down the mid lane. 30 CS advantage over the back row people. 1 kill advantage to H2K.
Yeah, it was, but it's Origen that got the gold lead. And Dragon seems to be partially contestable, but H2K, they're not sticking around.
The gameplay that we're seeing here and the tremendous amount of action make us sometimes forget what we're actually looking at. This is still a game 5 of a semifinal. This is the difference, winning or losing, between whether you get to play the losers match in Rotterdam or you get to play in front of a big crowd and potentially go to MSI, so...
Oh no, SOAS jumps right into Alistair, back over the wall! Yankos finds him, Ria's got the distortion pad. In you go, out you go, ping pong, and SOAS is dead.
Yeah, the fire slowly starting to be turned back up here. H2K wants some blood. They're tired of the passivity. Overall, hopefully we can see more of that.
But despite the kill, H2K are still fairly behind. CS lead sizable in that mid lane for Power of Evil over Ryu.
So that replay one more time, maybe one more after that, you know. Banner did a good job waiting there. Ryu goes back to distortion. Yeah, pretty textbook kill here overall. Soaz can't get through the Yankas. It's a shield pop.
That was actually a good sidestep using E there from Yankos as well, because it got outside of the hammer shock. Probably wouldn't have been the kill regardless, but had to use the collateral damage just to be safe.
It looked really close though, because there was so much damage that got put down onto Odo during the course of that fight.
PoE is so comfortable on this Orianna though, despite being pressured a little bit early. He has been given time to scale, and he's going for the ultimate scaling build. Rod of Ages into Athenes is super greedy, because the damage spike comes so late. Like, you have 2 items finished right now, 22 minutes in the game, and he's sitting on like 230 ability power. There's just nothing there. Whereas H2K Ryu, he's going for a more damage-oriented build with the early Abyssal, but there will be a bigger late game spike for sure.
Gonna try and pop Sven here. Odawame got knocked back by Amazing. He's gonna try and escape from this fight, this brawl in the mid lane.
Yeah, both teams have formidable front lines there through. Alistair can always soak up. Amazing and Mythi can always step into the fray, and Sven has shown that it's really hard to get caught out here.
Power of Evil doesn't want to fight now. He's sitting on 1,700 gold. That's a lot of unspent ability power, and he's been caught out. Mythi's put down the Glacial Fissure to try and slow down H2K. It seems to be doing the work. Shockwave finds Yankos on Forgiven, and here comes Soaz. He's looking for Forgiven. Sven takes him down. Origen get their first kill of the final map. They take a second, running down Vander, and Yankos is the target. The headbutt delivers Amazing on the back line. Yes, Ryu's found one, but it's a support, and it will be another kill for Power of Evil in Origin. It is a 4-for-1.
And in a similar fashion, just like in Game 4, where H2K pull the trigger and they go for a fight, they find themselves on the losing side here. Honestly, wow. Sleep, and Power of Evil steps up in this fight. So much damage comes out in a longer team fight from this Orianna. Obviously, playing with CDR and high base damages, he completely wrecks the fight at the end there. Good shockwave.
In a game like this as well, where you have such a passive early game, Yankos is going to find Power of Evil, going to be zoning him away, just trying to get him range potential.
Oh, Amazing stuck alone in the pit though.
Everyone goes after, but Amazing is by himself. They should be able to loop back around and take this one down. TP though from Odawame. This could be enough to interrupt them over the wall. No, Spike comes down. Odawame is going to get closed in on, and he's all the way back to base. I'm out, and OG with the Baron at 24 minutes into this game. This is quite exciting.
And the contrast couldn't be bigger between the very timid approach from both teams here. But Ryu, dash 1, dash 2. Mythi blocks all the projectiles and the chains here, which means Power Ryu is unscathed. Mythi made it so that Ryu is now on full cooldown. They're going on Mythi again. They're tunneling on the support when everything's been used, and they walk into a double shockwave with the flying from Soaz. This is major. Honestly, this is tilt from H2K. This is not what we're used to seeing from them. And many of the important games so far this season, they have lost by poor team fighting overall and poor decision making after very, very slow points in the game. And this was just completely unnecessary and uncalled for, and a fantastic punish from Origen.
Yeah, 25 minutes in. Origen have the Baron buff for another 2 minutes. They've got themselves a 5,000 gold lead. 3 kills onto Sven, 2 kills onto Power of Evil, and both of them with 100% kill participation thanks to that gigantic monumental win.
I mean,
just a few minutes ago.
Mythi showed up in that fight. He soaked so much damage, but it's easy when they're focusing you. I mean, the hardest part about Braum is aiming your shield at the projectiles. When they're hitting you, it becomes a little bit easier, and we're not finding anybody in isolation here.
This has really emphasized the strengths and the weaknesses of both teams, though. Like H2K, weaknesses, team fights. OG, strengths, going for those team fights, and actually, when you pull the trigger, they're really good at going for them. And OG now converting this into a Baron, a lead in the mid lane, a push. Odawame getting chunked.
So much damage from that Void Staff that was picked up by Power of Evil. They will just brute force their way onto the tower. The threat of a shockwave alone is sending H2K reeling.
They could just put the ball, move it forward, hit the tower, back off, and somebody flying. So you're 1 dash down already, too. Yeah, there's nothing here. Mythi's ready. In case they go for the carries. Odawame no longer has teleport because he used it. So that's 1 counter engage tool off the books here. And H2K are looking to really lose this tower. Potential rotation top later, too, if they don't get poked.
H2K on the defense. Mid lane is slowly being chunked down. You can see this cannon minion putting the damage down slowly, just trying to get a couple hits in. Sven's trying to get in range.
So good.
He's trying to facilitate that, and he makes it happen. That's the middle tower going down. Ryu is constantly looking for that flank, but Sven is so well protected.
Yes, he really is. Mithy's on the right place at the right time, and the inhibitor will drop 27 minutes in. Origen, they set up the siege, they complete the siege, and they're not done. They can rotate top.
This first pick Braum is paying massive dividends here overall for Origen. They understood the pick and bans in this series, and they adapted very well against H2K, who traditionally have really crisp pick and bans, but this Braum pick is completely destroying Ryu in these fights. Every time Ryu moves to a flank, Mithy matches him. Ryu has to use his first dash to even get in range, because the looming threat of a Braum Q is always there, and then just push up the shield. Yes, it's easy gameplay, but it's so efficient right here. And then Power of Evil can protect the other side. Sven will never go down. PoE is super tanky and has a Void Staff, and it's looking grim right now.
Playing these lanes so well as well. Now Mithy, with the Banner of Command, is going to be putting Nana in the lane. And yeah, OG have just really played this game extremely well. From that one misstep from H2K, have blown this game out of proportion.
And I really like these Banner of Commands coming out from a team where in a lot of the clips they said, well, PoE doesn't play that well on a side lane. His champion pool is also champions mages for mid. In a meta where split push is important for pressure, not for tower push, getting a banner back in there on a support when your jungler is a tank that already has Lockhead, I think is a good solution. You just open up pressure in one side of the map. It's incredibly hard as well for Ryu to deal with that creep.
You can itemize around... Weakness is a strong word, but you can itemize to allow your strengths to shine more. Maybe that's a better way of looking at it. And there's that Banner of Command empowered minion. Earlier, Mithy actually built a Zrot portal as well to follow
I think that was overkill, but
it looked really cool. Strong independent support. He can pick up CS and push side lanes. Inner turret in the bottom lane is being pressured, and H2K are going to be hard pressed to fend off this Origen squad that has a very big advantage.
Yeah, look for a Sivir ulti into a flash combo from Vander. I think H2K is going to look to pull the trigger right now.
And here they go, Ryu off to the side, but he has to immediately jump out. Sven's dropping low, and the front line is there, but Sven, it's so difficult for him to actually walk up and hit this tower, but they've shoved them away, and H2K have to go back to their base.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. The second you see parallel convergence come out, you know that Origen can expect to engage. Sivir ulti gets used, another tower drops here.
And Origen just cleanly walk away. They used just the Glacial Fissure. Nothing else was used. Power of Evil was holding onto that shockwave for if it was needed. And Origen get the objective, they get out safe, and they can just rinse and repeat for another one.
Like, what happened to Origen between these games? Because this is not only adaptation, but a complete change in playstyle and how they're just playing the map. Because usually you get in that situation and it's just like, oh, well, should we go for this tower? Should we group up now? But they're making these plays so cleanly. H2K looking to try and punish Amazing as he's in the jungle by himself, but he's not by himself. Power of Evil's there. Dash over the wall. This is 5 people on him. He'll be flashing away, I believe, at the right time. Yeah, he's good to go. And ultimate in return. Vander, no ultimate. He's going to have to jump towards the blue buff to escape. So that one was turned around on H2K, despite 5 members being around there for the play against 2.
Yeah, even on just rank 3, it's close to a 300 health shield that PoE can put on Amazing right there. Also gets 20 armor, 20 MR, and he can pop that shield every 5 seconds here. This CDR Oriana is really paying off because he was sitting on just boots 1 earlier, but right now with the Athenes and the CDR boots and probably some CDR runes, he's closing on the cap overall. So he can just get so many spells out with really good base damages, and now he's looking for his next spike too, with the Zonias making him nigh unkillable.
43.35% cooldown reduction for Power of Evil. Take a quick look at the stats. You can see Soaz is pushing up in this top quadrant of the jungle. Down in the jungle, there was a little bit of pressure from Ryu onto Soaz. You can see his HP's missing, but nothing really comes of it. And Origen will just usher the minion wave into the top tower, set up vision, and with Baron spawning in 30 seconds, Origen can call H2K's bluff. Either you face check us and die, because you got to face check a Gragas Orion Braum, or you run the risk of us taking Baron.
Yeah, or both. In this case, for Origen, complete control, because even when they're doing Baron, they have 2 tanks with an Oriana. They can start the Baron and they can take over a minute to finish it and probably still not lose any health. That's how easy it is for them to control this pacing. And this time, the Fog of War advantage. I mean, if we could just get a vision toggle of what H2K sees at this point. Look, complete darkness.
It's very difficult. They have that one wall that sees amazing. The rest, they just don't know where anyone is.
And every brush, every step you take, you know, Origen is watching you.
Yeah, indeed. It's like playing battleships right now from H2K. They're able to take away this pink ward. Amazing's off to the side. And, like, taking one step forwards could be the misstep that costs H2K the game.
So important to remember that a spot in the final, spring split,
Teleport.
title, and a chance to win that final and go to MSI. Soaz wants to make a play happen. He's teleported in behind H2K, but it looks like H2K may have been able to escape. Ryu's looking for a flank opportunity on the side. Follow Sven. Watch his hit points. Ryu dashes in, but only to tag Mithy. No damage has been done to the carries of Origen, and the culling sends Ryu running for his life.
I think this is where Origen retreat and just simply start the Baron. Ryu's on half HP, so when he comes in, he can just get his life traded on. Mithy can still peel. We still have those Oriana shields. Yeah, Ryu's coming from base with home guards. Origen looking for another bait here, very patient.
Jankos called out, a great steadfast presence. Jankos isn't able to dash away, isn't able to flash away. He goes down, 50 seconds on the jungler. OG looking to pressure Baron.
H2K were thinking the exact same thing that I was, but Origen was one step ahead. You know, one more bait, control, calm. No room for errors, no room for throws. BOE sidestepped the chain here.
Well, let's find out if Power of Evil goes down. Shockwave is available, but not needed. Baron is still being forced on by Amazing, and Jankos without Smite is not here because he's dead. Mithy's continuing to buy time. Baron's going low, 1,500 hit points. Soaz is trying to peel. It's secured by Origen, and in the ensuing fight, Chrono break backwards. Odo's running for his life. The Cullings come back off cooldown. And Origen get out alive with the buff.
Yeah, but every time H2K look to answer with any damage, the Braum shield comes up from it and it positions around his carries. Support is no longer a carry role in the sense that you need to engage, but it is your job to provide utility and peel for your teammates. And Mithy is doing a fantastic job overall so far.
That pick onto Jankos was so good from OG, and if the game was already open, now, like, H2K, what an uphill struggle this is going to be for them to come back into this. And this is their final hopes, you know? Like, are they forever going to be locked into going for third place?
Yeah, H2K have not made a split final, despite their fantastic performances for truthfully the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Starting to fall apart when it matters.
And just a decision to put Expeke out and PoE back in, it does show some of the long-term goals that Origen has for their roster.
And the growth, because Power of Evil was not performing this well during the regular split. He's already started the initiation. The barrel's found Vanda.
Vanda, he has to pop the ultimate. This will concede this inhibitor. OG play it safe. They back away. They got what they came for. They'll go into the top lane. Or they'll just find Ryu. Oh, Soaz, what a play. Instantly sees him, instantly nails him against the wall. And OG's tempo is in their favor.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt, Peke. Cheeky grin.
Yeah, he can smile.
Yeah.
Cheeky grin. Origen have got a gigantic opportunity to finish this game.
There we go.
Take a look further in the lane, because the fight's already started. Amazing.
That one's Ted, by the way.
That's fine.
All right.
Origen are setting up the siege. A minute left. Keeper's verdict was flung out defensively.
Let's go, Ted.
Just to secure the inhibitor. This is the second one opened up by Origen. They might be looking for the win. Wow. They're pushing for the Nexus turret.
They're pushing in. The many minions are here. Oda one. They will try and phase dive out of the shockwave. Vanda jumps in, but the rest of his team is getting zoned away by Soaz. Good shield out from Mithy. Will take some of those projectiles, and they're going to leave Ted behind. Unfortunately, he's going to go down. But still, the constant push from OG, they're pushing this one in.
Yeah, good reaction combo there from Vander. Hits 3 people, I believe, there in the back line, while Shockwave cannot spell Odowan's death, and then Ryu spawns as well. Origen can base though. 2 inhibs down, a third right for the taking. A fantastic 10,000 gold lead overall, so they're looking in prime position to close out this game. And so far, no ill-advised throws. Just really calm and collected, really understanding the limits of their fights and of their composition.
Truthfully, both teams have played very well, and there have been individual mistakes at different times that have obviously cost objectives, but as teams, we've seen a very good series of games.
But we've seen a different H2K though.
Yeah.
Leaving
more mistakes than usual.
More mistakes and punishing way little. Way less mistakes overall. Origen got away with a lot of things here, just playing on such a narrow map, especially last game, when the map felt so small for them.
Playing on 1 lane instead of 2 or even 3.
Yeah.
1-3-0, no, this is a 0-5-0 competition. Season 2, boys.
We're back.
Zero,
Move mid,
5,
guys.
0.
Just
Right.
push.
Super Minions are in 2 lanes, and Origen, how they may not
Auto
need
TP,
them.
left side.
Vanda also off to the left side. Odawami backing him up, parallel convergence, but that's not the engage you want, buddy. He's gonna back off. He's just looking for this flank to happen, but H2K up against the wall. This could be last chance saloon.
Yeah, and how patient is Origen? Gonna wait for the minions, or are they gonna push in right now? Banner command comes out, Banner combos.
And let's take a look. Mythi's put the Fisher down. The Shockwave catches 2. Chrono Break early from Odo there, but spent untouched. Soaz gets a 2-man verdict, and a defensive move from H2K gets him out alive. Nobody's died yet, but that does not matter. The tower has fallen. The 3rd inhibitor has dropped. Origen set their sights to the Nexus turret and a spot in the finals, but they're gonna play it safe for now.
Yeah, they back off wisely, so there is almost nothing that can go wrong if they base right here. If they get ace on this push, maybe H2K can come back, and this is the final game in a very close series. Both teams obviously a little worn out, but again, the frontline peel, Mythi and Amazing, that their strength as a jungle support duo came out last season when they revolutionized kind of vision over in Europe at least, by invading together, being a tag team. But right now, they're being the frontline tag team in terms of beefiness and just soaking up damage and not allowing anybody to get to Sven, to get to Power of Evil. They returned that in kind by completely wrecking their opponent.
Yeah, it's just insane to see OG come back to form from what we saw from last year and just turn up in the playoffs. And of course, teams, they perform differently in the regular season and best of ones, which we don't have anymore. Converting that into a series, and then how teams react in those is just phenomenal.
And every single player of the Origin squad is playing better than their spring split selves.
Exactly.
You know, throughout the series, you know, they've each had highs and lows, but every single one of them has had a higher average performance. And conversely, Ryu's not been a very big factor. He's had good moments, but he's just not been as much of a threat.
Yeah, he's just not finding any openings. That's why we see also Les LeBlanc overall. She doesn't snowball late game. She is reduced to 1 shot, 1 glory, 1 attempt, but Mythi can just completely counter that now. Minions streaming in every single lane here.
So many super minions. All Origen have to do is play for time. The top Nexus turret has dropped to 10%, and Origen, they're not overcommitting. There's a Banner empowered minion, but there's Vander with the engage.
They've just got to go in. Big ultimate out from Amazing. Was split up with the fight. Vander's coming in. There's the ultimate. He goes down. First kill of the fight over to OG. Turning on to Oda1. They make that the second. And now Yankos also caught out. Ryu, he's trying to go for the assassinate. But Sven, he's too slippery. He's too good. That's a second kill. And now going on to the Nexus itself.
The Nexus turret is going down, and against all odds, Origen take down H2K and are your first finalists in the spring splits.
And that was a super sexy flash from Sven in that last fight.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a W R combo coming out from Ryu towards him. He flashes over it aggressively just to finish it off. Just complete awareness and dominance. And OG, usually in close series, yeah, you could say maybe one team threw it at the end, but Origen overall in these series definitely deserved the victory, because even in the games that they lost, they had these early leads overall, and they were just a better team today.
They really were, in tough faces on the side of H2K. Truthfully, outclassed. We saw standard lanes, we saw lane swaps. Picks, team fights. Like, this series had everything at multiple times, but Origen were just the better team on the day in nearly every category.
It's insane, right? H2K, we saw their weaknesses and we saw their strengths, but we ultimately saw more of their weaknesses today. And OG, we saw more of their strengths. And on an individual level, I was definitely impressed by Amazing, Power of Evil, and Soaz all turning up in the big way. Sven returning to his early split form. Oh, Soaz, look at the swag.
I think that's a crown on top.
Yeah.
Would have been better if it was a baguette.
That's very true. That's a mushroom. And Miffy, yeah. Great picks and priority as well on the Braum picks, and he made them work.
Yeah, and that Braum pick, honestly, very essential in the series, and that makes me very interested to see what's going to happen tomorrow in the G2 game, where we have the Braum one trick.
And it's quite funny as well, because you know we were talking so much about the Rise pick, which we saw a little bit last week, at least in the bans, and looking at some of those priority champions. But in a series in a best of 5 with specific teams and specific players, some champions just go up in value. Like the Twisted Fate banned 5 games out of 5 against Ryu. You never get a chance to, and that's not something that we consider top tier, but obviously very targeted at what H2K have been practicing in their scrims.
No, definitely so. I like the adaptation, priority shifts. Surprised that despite giving up Sivir Echo on first rotation, Origen managed to get out the win. So not only did they realize the strength of certain champions, they also really learned how to play against them a little bit better overall. And especially this last game, that they went for the Orianna instead of the Lulu. I like it too. It fills a similar role, but it's a slightly more aggressive pivot, I feel, with a little bit more damage. And Pewee definitely stepped up. He survived that initial gank, with the cleanse flash, and then he just stayed in the game. And late game, that build was paying off because they actually read the game in the sense that it goes super slow with that late game build, and then started winning these fights.
Yeah, I've definitely been converted into a big fan of Power of Evil's Orianna, but we're going to send it onto the stage with Pyrotechnist as he is on stage with Origen's mid.
Thanks, Pulse. Absolutely fantastic casting on the day. Now, I've picked a pair of mid laners, Peke and Power of Evil. Congratulations on your victory, gentlemen. But I do want to ask about this marathon of a series. At the end of the day, you were the ones to cross the line. And, really, you stepped up big. And what was the changeover week to week from the Unicorns of Love series to now?
Well, so for me, it started before the Unicorns of Love series. When X-Pac started playing more scrims, it was really helpful for me to learn more about communication and map awareness, and it was really helpful for me to communicate with the teammates. And I think we improved it from week to week drastically. And in the Unicorns of Love series, it was kind of like, maybe I would call it like a tryout or something, And you can learn on stage how to do it. And I think we could show that we did really good today.
You absolutely did. I'm glad you brought up the ability to swap in Peke and you being able to learn a little bit from that and get better at the shot call and get better at the communication in team. Peke, for you, being able to swap into the team, one of the few teams in the world that's doing this, the only team in Europe, how much of an edge does that give you over everyone else?
Well, it's really scary at the same time because, for example, when I swap in, I went in with 0 warm-up, 0 practice, and at first you're a bit nervous because you don't know what's going to happen. But at the same time, I'm confident because it doesn't matter that much as long as the team plays really good. It's really easy to move in, because when I practice and when he practices, it's kind of what he say. We are practicing as a team, and doesn't matter who plays. It's just maybe different playstyle, maybe different champions, but the team dynamic is the same. And I don't feel any pressure when I'm playing because I know if the team is performing, I know even if I'm not playing at my level, I can do good, and that's the thing. And Tristan was playing so good as well now that didn't really need to change me in actually.
Well, I'm glad you were able to get at least one game on the board, but absolutely fantastic play from you as well, Power of Evil. But as a team, you guys have looked incredible this series, and it has been improving week to week. At the very beginning of the split, I want to rewind back in time. Everyone said, Origen's going to be the #1 team, Origen's going to be the #1 team, and you guys had a bit of an uphill struggle. But it seems like you're on track for that now. Did you just need time, or, is this even your final form going into finals?
I'm actually not sure what happened directly in the split. I think it was adapting to the team style, to the team communication. It's really, really different from Unicorns of Love. So even how we do the after team talks, it was really different for me to kind of come into this, I would say, team environment. But I got really used to it now, and I really enjoy it. And I think with going into the finals, we are really good to go.
Really looking forward to that as well. Now, last question, of course, to you, Peke. Who do you expect to face in those finals, and tell me a little bit about why?
Well, it's really hard actually. I have no idea because Fnatic, we have played them a lot more, but we haven't played G2 at all, so it's really hard to tell the level of G2. Fnatic has a consistent playstyle that if you're not ready for will beat you, so it will be off to G2 performance. But I actually think that Fnatic can probably take the game. I will say it's like this game. People expect G2 to win, but it can go either way. Fnatic is prepared, and I think they're preparing well.
Well, we'll be in for a hell of a semifinal and then, of course, a crazy final match in Rotterdam. Thanks again for joining me, gentlemen. You guys can go back and join the rest of your team. Meanwhile, though, we are going to send it back to the analyst desk to break down OG's big victory en route to the big game in the Netherlands.
All these stats, all these predictions, I have no idea how everything got that crazy today. And obviously, it's all scripted, OG versus Fnatic in the finals. But let's
calling it already.
No, let's break it down. 5-game series. We have a lot to read off. Obviously, like you always say, there's part underperforming in Team A and overperforming in Team B. But what was greater? Was it H2K not showing up?
I think the key factor here is we highlighted coming in, H2K's weakness in team fighting. Origen clearly looked at the same thing in their prep and said, hey, look, H2K don't seem to team fight, pick the right fights particularly well. And whether sometimes it was circumstantial of H2K being out of position or Origen finding fights with some of these comps, with the Game 2 comp, with the Maokai, certainly Origen just was like, okay, well, we're just going to fight you. And if we can fight you until we get a lead, we can build off this and eventually take the series.
I think also the team Origen, they made some very good adaptations in terms of pick and bans, because H2K had that very beautiful game 3 where it's like basically a stomp, almost a perfect game. After they took away, you know, or they made sure we don't pick the Cassidy now so we lose the early game in terms of wave clear, they took Lulu and Oriana. Suddenly they ran scaling compositions but with actual wave clear, so they could stop the pushes happening from Origen, sorry, from H2K, and at the same time, they also got lane swaps 2 games in a row. So they didn't get pressured in the standard lanes, which was the problem looking back at game 3. And suddenly the games were a little bit slower. You know, Origen had time to get 1 or 2 items completed. They went Rod of Ages, you know, for Oriana here in this game. And they have the Gragas jungle, who's not the greatest jungler in this current meta, but when he gets to his late game part, he's a fantastic team fighter, and that's why they can win these team fights.
Yeah, I think they played good team fights together. They know when to engage. We saw it in the first game. Source insta-TPs when he sees the opportunity, going over to this game where they play around the power spikes, Oriana being able to push in and yeah, playing beautifully together the team fights as well, with shielding the ADC, speeding everybody up. So I think that OG just played to their strengths, and yeah, I think H2K also showed a little bit of a weakness in this case.
Sorry, it's just I was thinking back to the beginning of the split. We were discussing this on the desk as well. If before the split you would have given a prediction of a possible winner, you would have said OG was the best form. Fnatic had changed up. If you hadn't looked at the split and you looked at this game, they are an actual contender to win the whole thing. Obviously, they're in the finals, but if Fnatic, I don't know. I'm afraid to say anything.
I mean, the key thing here is when you look at across the entire split, is you're right. At the beginning, we were like, Origen, probably the top team, least changes, just plugging one player in. And then we got halfway through the split, and it's like Fnatic and Origen are halfway in the standings. H2K look great. G2 look great. Unicorns look great. Vitality look great. All way better than Origen and Fnatic, but whatever it is, the improvements they made in a very short space of time, when it counts, has been a lot better. I mean, Origen, you know, picking and choosing perhaps better compositions and playing around Power of Evil a little bit better than they had been previously is part of it, but certainly they chose the right time in the split to peak with that practice.
I mean, I guess you couldn't really wait coming into players. It's like, now you have to peak and that's it. I find it kind of scary in a way that 2 teams can struggle throughout the split and other teams who would be tryharding from the start, you know, trying to improve all the time, in the end didn't even get good enough. So once we got to playoffs, these, like a team like Origen could just step up, like a guy like Source, and amazing. They suddenly look much better.
Quoting the interview we did with Prolly, week 1, week 2, or week 3, hey, you guys are in the same position as you were last year. You're tactically ahead of the curve. How are you going to make it work? He said, well, I have the individual talent to rise above and go further than we did. They are possible 3rd place again. That's got to crawl in your mind. For Forgiven as well, the fact that he doesn't get to play that final now, there's just so many things going on here.
I honestly think the biggest question is what exactly is consistency in actually League of Legends. Like, we see so many teams performing really well and then struggle in the end. We see it in different tournaments as well. I think that the mental state you know, calls a lot for that. And honestly, in OG's case, I'm just really, really surprised. I didn't see them coming out ahead, and now they have this really strong showing. So, yeah, just very excited for tomorrow in this case.
Me too. Crazy, crazy day today. We got to move on because the people over in NA, they want to see their semifinal as well. But here in today's semifinal, Sven put on his carry pants to bring Origen to the Spring Championships. KDA of 9, half of his team's kills, and an 80% kill participation across 5 games. He's our series MVP. Obviously, a lot of people played well, but it was Sven after that game 1 maybe. He absolutely stepped up. They relied on him also with the Lulu comp, so all praise deserved there.
Yeah, a lot of praise deserved. You know, maybe not every game was the tip top, but certainly performing very well in game 4 with the comp built.
I honestly think it's hard to choose an MVP here for Origen. I think they all played together as a team, and that's, you know, what you want to see in the end. So Sven just like the tip of the iceberg there.
I just want to give a shout out to Amazing.
Yeah.
Coming into this, again, we didn't really know what to expect in this meta. So a lot of the carry junglers. He showed both carry junglers with Kindred. He then showed out the Gragas as well. Strong team fights from him. Really stepped up big time. And that's so important for Origen because they had some struggling members on the top side of the map. Also the tanks for Source. They just fit in this meta right now and they can perform. And that makes it easier for a guy like Sven to then stand out in team fights and then become the MVP.
I feel also for H2K, I didn't expect them to be like they kind of seemed dead at points where they just let OG do what they wanted to do. Like they let the Lulu scale, they let the Oriana control everything, and they played the LeBlanc and want to play aggressive. And I didn't see the fire, you know. And Origin seemed there way more ahead, so I think that's the point.
A lot to think about for H2K, but it's done. It's on the books, and with their win today, Origen claims the first spot in the spring finals. I did not think I was going to say that today, leaving H2K to compete for 3rd place in Rotterdam once again. Final seeding is the same as the rest of the playoffs. Whoever entered the bracket as a higher seed gets the choice, or side choice rather, in games 1, 3, and 5. Not thinking about that yet, but touching on tomorrow's semifinal. Fnatic versus G2. We said before today that's going to be a lot closer than today. Well, 5 games is pretty close already, so...
Probably going to go 5 games again.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
Give
think
us more.
those two teams are so even. I want to give a slight advantage to Fnatic, but that's, again, judging from the play they showed against Vitality. I think they had fantastic shot calling in there. I actually saw some very good and consistent macro play from this team. And also, again, I think this meta is just spot on for Fnatic, but we can almost say the same for G2.
Yeah.
Tank tops, you know, carry junglers with these Koreans. It's going to be so even, and Perks is going to kill me now for saying this.
Well, I also have to maybe put a little bit on Perk's shoulders as well. We just saw Ryu ineffective on carry champions in the last 2 games on the LeBlanc. If the same thing happens again, that could go Fnatic's way. We just saw an example.
But I have to say that Fnatic needs to be careful, because the first game they picked like Ezreal, Alistar, Kessa didn't go full scaling.
Yeah, we don't want that.
We don't want to see that. We want to see against G2 at least strong brawling as well. And I hope that Fnatic is not just playing the macro game in this direction, but also play like individually strong. And that's the only way I can see them fail.
I can't wait to see the tweets and everything coming out.
We go 5 games. You know, you can pick either way. 5 games.
It's going to be great. In any case, we will fill in the rest of our bracket tomorrow, indeed, as the first seed G2 Esports takes to the stage finally and takes on the reigning European champions, Fnatic, as we just talked about. And then whoever ends up losing will play in the 3rd place match versus H2K. And then immediately following the action here in Berlin tomorrow, we will hand things off to Dash and the NA LCS team for their semifinal clash between Immortals and Team Solo Mid. Our matches here in Berlin will get underway at 5 p.m. Central European Time. That is 8 a.m. Pacific, and we will see you there. For now, though, more League over in NA. Thank you so much, Sheepy, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And, well, you guys as well. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Whatever.
you're always here.
We'll be
Anyway, we'll see you guys back home, back here tomorrow, and just keep watching, because the semifinals are getting underway over in NA, and we'll be back here tomorrow for our side of things.
Lineups are locked in. Will H2K advance to their first ever European final? Can Origen take down one of Europe's best teams? They're looking to pull that trigger, and the target's currently Vander. They found Forgiven, and they've taken him down.
Correct. Back on now. It's good. I pulled. Nice.
H2 power. But so is re-engaged. Mithy's on the front line. Sven's doing work. He's already killed Vander. Follow Sven's HP. He's down. H2K may have won it. H2K pick up the first win in the best of 5.
Can't do more. Keep going. I tagged him. I can shoot you here. It's needs if you come to me. Woo! Good job. H2 work.
Yes. The ace for OG, and they'll be finding the first win in this series.
Go Alistar now. Kill Alistar and then we can go back.
Alistar on flash.
Can we nice after?
Yes.
Nice.
Go Nash.
H2K pick up a dominant victory.
Go slowly. Blast on set. She said. Okay. Jungle. Nash.
Origen are onto the Nexus turrets and even out the series at 2-2.
Nice. Go. I have E2, these two. Shoot you. LeBlanc. I'm coming. She has no W there. I tagged her. We can Nash.
Origen take down H2K and are your first finalists in the spring split.